Wow, what a long day. I need a break from learning all this history in Miss Diley's AP class. I want to catch some Z's. What? Where am I? Who are you?
Hi, I'm Liam, and I'll be your tour guide for the first part of your journey throughout history. Here's a telescope for better user experience. Your first destination is here in Cahokia.
Man, what the flip? I thought I would at least be able to escape history in my dreams. What even is this place?
Cahokia was the largest city in North America until Philadelphia surpassed it. Located on the Mississippi River, these people lived in mounds like this one that they believed to be holy. Cahokia was a center of trade and commerce for the native people of the Mississippi area and beyond, with their extensive trade networks.
Wow, that's so interesting. I'm still kind of confused on what's going on, but whatever.
Follow me.
What are those boats doing?
They're transporting goods from Europe, Africa, and the Americas in the Columbian Exchange. This caused vast economic changes to European systems, like transforming their economies from feudalism to capitalism. American lives were also altered, as the horses brought over from Europe were revolutionary for traveling and transporting goods. Follow me to the northern colonies of the United States. While we traverse through the second period in American history, it's important to look at the colonies and see the cultural differences that occurred between the northern territories and the southern ones. We begin in the north. Though the textile industry didn't emerge until the late 18th century, most textiles were woven and spun at home by women. Homespun was the term used for weaving your own clothing in a non-industrial setting.
That's so cool. So basically, at this point, there's no industrialization in the colonies, and skilled labor was very popular during this time.
Yeah, exactly.
What's this guy doing?
This is an indentured servant and textile worker.
What are indentured servants?
They're people that work for a period of time in exchange for passage across the Atlantic.
So they're paying off a debt? That's neat.
Exactly. The people who traveled to the Northern American colonies were Puritans. They came here to escape England and the corruption of the English church. They believe in close family ties and Protestant ideas from the popular document, the Mayflower Compact.
Yeah, and it declared majority rule within the Plymouth County and showed the importance of religion for them.
Well, Thomas, I'm very impressed with your prior knowledge. Here we have the first Great Thanksgiving. Let's keep going. Over here, we have the Salem witch trials going on.
Wait, I remember learning about this in my history class. This was the same witch trials, where people were accused of witchcraft and mass hysteria swept the colonies.
And burn the witches!
That's correct, Thomas. Another important event that occurred during these times was the Enlightenment with Ben Franklin and the Great Awakening. Let's look.
There is no want of power in God to cast wicked men into hell at any moment. Men's hands can't be strong when God rises up. The strongest have no power to resist him, nor can any deliver out of his hands. He's not only able to cast wicked men into hell, but he can most easily do it, sometimes an earthly price.
God, dude.
This is Jonathan Edwards. He is a master orator giving his speech about religion. Let's get going to the other colonies. Here, Thomas, we make our way more south into the middle colonies. We will observe new territorial claims and how they were culturally unique in their tolerance of different ethnic groups and religion.
Bet, let's go. What are these homes?
This is the middle colonies. They're the most diverse out of all the colonies, as you can see with all these flags.
Oh yeah, didn't they have British, French, Dutch, Swedish, and German people of all different religions?
Exactly. Look at all these diverse populations. These areas of the U.S. at the time were very tolerant. In New Jersey, the occupants were mostly Dutch with different migrants, as you can see with the Dutch flag.
Cool, that's my home state.
There was also great diversity in ethnicity as popular Native American tribes like the Iroquois and the newly acquired African Americans came in large numbers. Earlier developments in the New England area caused many dissenting groups to leave the strict, non-tolerant Protestant Puritan colonies. For example, Thomas, leader William Penn was exiled from English society and formed his own society in Pennsylvania, which promoted diversity.
So dope.
Let's keep going south. To the left here are the Chesapeake colonies.
This place seems so agricultural.
Yeah, it is. This colony contained the first English settlement, Jamestown, where cash crops dominate the economy.
Like tobacco?
Yeah, that was the main source of growth for these southern colonies as the environment. Here's some tobacco, as you can see. An early development in these southern areas was the toleration of religion in the Maryland Toleration Act of 1649, which was the first act that protects diversity and encouraged immigrants to move there. However, it was very short-lived. But it was later reenacted in 1690. Over here is the Deep South. In the southern colonies, also known as the Deep South, cash crops were also very dominant in the economy.
Like what type of crops did they use?
This Carolina plantation grows cotton as their main source of income, but also rice was pretty popular.
Oh, that's cool.
While we enter period 3 of U.S. history, it's important to see the effects and the War of the 7-Year War on the colonies.
Okay.
During the War, Thomas, the British and French battled in the Ohio River Valley, where their famous forts, Fort Necessity and Fort Duquesne, were fighting for control.
Oh my god, they're fighting.
The results of this war were the taxes that came out of it. The British government decided to tax the colonies as a result of the massive amount of debt that came out of this war. Welcome to Boston, Massachusetts, TBrew, the heart of the revolution.
William Pitt, why did you tax us? You promised that you wouldn't tax us.
But I didn't mean to.
One of the most prolific
You
liars,
taxed
even
us.
if it was accidental, in American history was William Pitt, who lied to the colonists by promising them that they would reimburse them for their efforts if they participated in the French and Indian War.
Wow, a freaking liar. Can we ban him?
Okay. /kick William Pitt. Anyway, as I was saying earlier, the British now began a rampage of taxes, which angered them in several ways.
Like what type of taxes?
Well, first, the Stamp Act put a stamp duty on newspapers and documents and organized colonial opposition, like the Stamp Act Congress. That caused it to be removed. The Intolerable Acts was the reaction from Parliament after the Boston Tea Party, and it was a series of 4 acts that negatively affected the colonists. You'll see the Boston Tea Party shortly. The Sugar Act taxed colonists through molasses, and it also banned foreign import.
Oh, I can see why they were mad.
Yeah, the Townshend Act was an earlier act that put tax on glass, paint, paper, and tea, led to a lot of British regulation in colonial shipping and control over trade.
Damn. Was there anything else that they did to protest back?
Actually, yes. The Sons of Liberty was a group of protesters. This group used violence, but also spread information about how wrong the British officials were in the Boston Massacre, a shooting that occurred in Boston.
Did they do any other important events?
Yeah, they also did the Boston Tea Party, like I said earlier. The British responded with the Intolerable Acts by closing the Boston port.
Oh my god.
Yeah, not cool. Follow me. Well, if you follow me south of Boston, TBrew, we'll come to Philadelphia. Here is Independence Hall, where the signing of the Declaration of Independence took place. This is when America declared themselves as a free nation. If you come into this room, you'll see the historic event taking place.
John Hancock, would you like to sign the Declaration of Independence first?
Heck yeah.
Wow, what a big signature you got there, John. Now we enter the Revolution, where America fought to become an independent country, free from any British rule. They got too fed up with the constant ignorance of their voices. The first battle, also known as the shot heard around the world, was the Battle of Lexington and Concord. It began the Revolution.
Who shot first?
Well, nobody really knows, but From then on, it was clear war was imminent. If you keep following me, we can see some of the later battles. For example, the Battle of Bunker Hill was one of the earlier battles of the war. The Americans were placed in a disadvantageous situation on top of a hill with limited supplies and ammunition.
Oh yeah, it's where they said the famous quote, "Don't shoot until you see the whites of their eyes."
That's correct. Let's keep going to one of the most famous parts of the revolution. Here is Valley Forge, where George Washington and some important figures like von Steuben trained and stabilized the U.S. into a full-scale army. Though conditions were horrible, it is still an inspiration for Americans today.
Now, why on earth would we put the latrines directly next to the drinking water? You're all a bunch of donuts. Now, this is how you hold a bow and arrow. I mean, a gun, a musket.
I don't
Yeah.
get it. I don't get it, von Steuben.
No, but like this. You stupid idiot. Like this.
All right, we'll let von Steuben figure that one out. Let's keep going. This was the monumental crossing of the Delaware that George Washington and his troops did Christmas nights. Their 9-mile trek to Trenton in the wee hours of morning led to a surprise attack on the Hessians occupying it.
Oh yeah, and they were all drunk, right?
No, that's actually a myth, only taken by surprise. Washington's men were able to easily secure Trenton, a huge morale boost for a struggling army. This also caused many men to re-sign up for the army for the new year, which originally they were not going to do.
That's great.
Finally, we have the Battle of Yorktown. With support from the French after the Battle of Saratoga, the Americans defeated General Cornwallis's army during the Battle of Yorktown.
I surrender. I surrender.
So what happens now?
Well, it led to a series of peace treaties that ended the revolution and gained independence for America.
Let's go. So what happens now?
Though the war was over, America still suffered under a weak government for 10 years.
Like what?
Well, the first form of government was the Articles of Confederation. It had multiple weaknesses, like no central power in leadership, lacking of enforcing taxes, and no power to regulate trade.
Darn, that's crazy.
Shays' rebellion proved this, as Daniel Shay and his followers, Shayites, were angry farmers, and they revolted and targeted courthouses, which were shut down. It showed that there was
no
insufficient
taxes.
power to maintain civil peace and order.
Something had to change, right?
Yeah, exactly. As a result, America created a new government that involved balance between all three branches of legislative, executive, and judicial. This was also known as checks and balances.
I'm assuming that there was much more central power now, since, the Articles of Confederation had so little.
Yeah, and it shows. The Whiskey Rebellion, like Shays' Rebellion, proved that the new government was valid in enforcing the laws among all states whether they liked it or not. In that case, the whiskey tax was enforced successfully by Alexander Hamilton.
So this showed the new Constitution was much more effective than the Articles of Confederation.
Precisely. However, Thomas, unfortunately, after the revolution is where my expertise stops. I've called my colleague, Dominic, and he will be filling my position.
Oh, well, thanks for the knowledge, I guess. See you around.
Peace.
Hello there, Mr. Brew. As Liam said, I'll be teaching you this section of U.S. history. Hurry along. Now we
Come
enter
on,
period 4, the two-party system.
What are these guys arguing about?
It is Jefferson and Hamilton. They are arguing about the way of government. Let's listen.
We need a national bank, Jefferson. Without it, the country will crumble, and there will be nowhere to keep or organize our money.
We must listen to the Constitution. There's nothing about letting us create a national bank written in there, so we are not allowed to do it. What kind of political leaders would we be if we did not listen to our own rules?
This unprogressive thinking of yours is what will end up having our country fail. You know what? I'm done.
No.
Alright, let's get out of here before it gets ugly, TBrew. Alright, now we enter the War of 1812. You can see the burning of the White House. Look over there. The White House is on fire.
Oh, this is the War of 1812. The British are burning down the White House.
Correct! And look, the First Lady is saving a painting. This war finally set the colonies free from the clutches of Britain, and the two countries were no longer connected in any political way. Look over here. Here's an example of the Missouri Compromise.
Oh, it created the divide between slave and free states, right?
Yes, the North was industrial while the South continued to rely on slavery for income. This difference in industrialization caused a large divide in advancements later down the line. Alright, follow me, TBrew. We go, welcome to the Trail of Tears.
Why are all these people leaving?
Andrew Jackson signed the Indian Removal Act, kicking the Cherokee out of their homes.
Where are they going? Some bad place like Oklahoma?
Yes, Oklahoma.
Oh, that's not fair.
Well, unfortunately, much of America has been built on acts of unjustness like this. However, there's nothing we can do now to reverse the past, only sympathize with those who lost their homes. Let's move on. Alright, follow me up this mountain, TBrew, and here we will find the legendary explorers Lewis and Clark who set out the mark to western lands that were acquired with the Louisiana Purchase back in the early 1800s.
But wasn't the Trail of Tears in the 1830s?
Yes, but Lewis and Clark relate much better to our next topic, which you shall see soon. For now, let's hear what these men themselves have to say once we get up here.
Well, Lewis, you made it past these Rocky Mountains. Our journey has been brutal, yet fruitful.
It has been rough, but I know our explorations will aid Americans for centuries to come. Let's go.
Hooray!
Alright,
Very
TBrew.
good.
Here, look at this woman. She is the most well-known symbol for what Americans called manifest destiny.
That's the idea that America had the God-given right to expand across the continent from sea to shining sea. I see how Lewis and Clark were so relevant to this idea.
Exactly. This desire caused the U.S. to go rely on brute force to obtain these lands. For example, here we have the Texas Revolution. Remember the Alamo? This was a precursor to the Mexican-American War, a war in which the USA seized tons of lands from Mexico. From this war, America gained the states of California, Nevada, Utah, New Mexico, most of Arizona, and Colorado, and parts of Oklahoma, Kansas, and Wyoming.
I can see now how this is related to Manifest Destiny. The U.S. gained so much land to the west, they were now able to settle.
That's right, TBrew. Great connections. Let's move on.
Wow, look at all this gold.
Yeah, this here is a representation of the gold rush that occurred in 1849.
Oh, I know about this. This was when tons of people migrated to San Francisco once they heard that gold was found easily there in rivers and bodies of water. That's also where the name of the NFL team came from.
Precisely, TBrew. Although this migration was good for the American economy, the vast majority of these travelers were unsuccessful in their hunts.
Well, trying to find gold doesn't seem like the most reliable occupation.
Alright, now we move on to the transportation revolution.
Oh my, look, a steamboat inside a canal.
Yo, look, I'm on a steamboat. What?
Yes, they used hundreds of miles of canals and natural waterways to navigate the interior of the continent. This greatly helped trade spread widely all throughout America.
Oh, and is this a train?
Yeah, on our left, this invention helped the USA spread across the continent with the Transcontinental Railroad. The golden spike depicted here was the final one hammered onto, officially connecting the continent from coast to coast for the first time.
That's pretty cool, but I do have a question about earlier.
Oh, ask away.
How did the U.S. decide to split up all the extra land from the Mexican-American War? Whether they were going to be slave states or free states?
Well, as we saw earlier, Thomas, the ideas between Northerners and Southerners of the USA were extremely different. The North always thought slavery, well, not always, but thought slavery was morally wrong.
Oh, it's abolitionism.
Right, but the South depended on it for income. So this debate about not only what to do with these lands, but also whether slavery should be present in the U.S. at all, actually caused many southern states to secede or leave the Union. President Abraham Lincoln wanted to preserve the Union, and this ended up being the cause for the American Civil War.
Oh wow, and is that this battlefield?
That's right, Thomas.
Get out of our land, you Confederate scum!
Get out of here! Get out of here! No, we want to be our own union, our own nation.
We want to unify this
The
nation once again.
This is the Battle of
Yeah, but we
Gettysburg,
want to be the Confederates.
one of the bloodiest of the war. It was quite important as after the North won, General Lee and the Confederate Army had to start the retreat back to the South. The most iconic part of the battle, though, is actually what happened after it.
The Gettysburg Address.
Yes, but how about we leave the public speaking to Abe?
77 years ago. I know exactly what this is. It's Sherman's March, where they burnt down towns and supplies throughout Georgia.
Yes, you're so smart, TBrew. Now, we enter an era of Reconstruction. Here we have the amendments, the 13th, 14th, 15th. After the end of the war, Union coming out victorious, many changes were made to American society.
Were women finally allowed to vote?
Oh, TBrew, bless your soul, give it 60 years. However, African Americans did gain a multitude of different rights, as they outlawed slavery, ensured rights for everyone, and made it illegal to deny voters based on race.
This was only for men?
Unfortunately.
Well, at least people in the South were finally giving black Americans the respect they deserve.
Well, not quite.
What do you mean?
Well, if you look to our right here, you will see an example of two different water fountains. One reserved for whites, obviously high quality, and one for people of color, much more run down.
That's not fair.
No, but the South implemented black codes, which did not only affect quality of life. Many laws were created that prevented them from voting and other basic rights if you did not own property or have a stable job.
Well, how is that targeted at African Americans?
Think, Thomas, think. Black people have been out of slavery for not even a couple years. How are they supposed to be able to read and write, let alone own property or get a job? These classist and racist laws aim to make life as bad as they could for African Americans.
That's horrible.
Unfortunately, it doesn't end there. There were also a group of white Southerners who showed their hatred for African Americans through unlawful means.
That's the KKK.
Yes, this horrible group of men wore white costumes and attacked and killed many African Americans simply for existing. Sadly, this time period was not even the organization's most popular time, that being the revival in the 1920s. Law enforcement largely ignored their existence.
That's disgusting.
It is. Let's make our way to New York, somewhere without as much deeply rooted racism. However, I won't be joining you. My friend Ed will be your guide from here until the end. We call him the Gilded Age Expert.
Hello, Thomas. I am your new tour guide. I am a sheep, but my name is Ed Cooper, also known as Jack Godown. Let me finish this tour for you.
Wow, New York City.
Yep, home of the thriving Gilded Age. To our left here, you can see one of the first skyscrapers built representing the innovation and urban movement of people of this time period.
The Empire State Building?
Not quite yet. To our right here is an example of the classic mansion from the Gilded Age in a Victorian style. Many of the extremely wealthy own mansions just like this, in and out of the city.
Oh my god, that building's on fire.
It is. This is the tragic incident from the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory.
I remember, it was a clothing factory, right? One little spark ended up causing the whole thing to go up in flames, and over 100 young women who were employed there died.
That's right. It got to the point that even some decided it was better to jump from the upper floors of the building than endure the heat and smoke.
What a tragic incident. I hope they started to implement some fire safety features after that.
You know what? That's exactly what happened, TBrew. Now follow me as we take a look at one of the best gifts we ever received as a country. Let's speed walk, huh? Here we are, New York City, kind of.
Holy cannoli! It's the Statue of Liberty.
Yep. This gift from France came here in 1885, right in the heart of the Gilded Age. It was met with great fanfare.
Wow, this must have been a great time for everyone in the city.
Well, it was actually quite the opposite for 90% of the population.
Oh, what? Why?
Well, for starters, one group of people who were not treated well were immigrants.
Oh yeah, weren't tons of them coming over, but people were racist and it was hard for them to find work, let alone homes.
Fortunately, yes. Many immigrants had to live in places called tenements, where conditions were harsh and they struggled to just get the necessities to survive. Come on in. They rarely had enough room for themselves and they had to stay in the terrible conditions.
So, who else was treated badly during this era?
Well, the defining aspect of the Gilded Age were the monopolies running rampant. Come on outside real quick. A couple of examples were Carnegie Steel, using the Bessemer process, Vanderbilt's railroads, and the Standard Oil by John D. Rockefeller. These men figured out how to make each of their products extremely efficiently and swallowed their competition.
Wow, so they were super, super rich.
Super duper rich. It even got to the point where the government needed to get a loan from a couple different monopoly owners when they needed some financial help.
Jeez, so they were super, duper, duper rich.
Yeah,
But
I'm
that
John
didn't-
D. Rockefeller. I have all this
Oh.
money and I'm not going to give it to anybody.
Yeah, so
Hey,
that
give
doesn't
me my
mean they
money.
treated their workers well. These selfish billionaires treated their employees so badly with such long hours that this time period was actually the origin of labor unions, like the AFL and the Knights of Labor. Workers went on strike and protested in order to get more rights and not to be treated so horribly at their workplaces.
They were totally slaying. Go them. Those monopoly owners are meanies.
Totally. That was a very nice city tour. But let's continue on south and see how they are making out after the Civil War. Here is the New South. The South began to industrialize in an attempt to catch up with the industrialized North.
Yeah, Henry Grady wrote about the South industrializing and coined the term New South.
Yeah, as we can see here, some factories were starting to being built, but it was still mostly an agricultural economy.
Are those the populists?
Yeah, why?
Oh, I don't know. I've always loved the Populist Party. They were just regular people, farmers, Westerners.
Yeah, man. Let's move on to our next stop through time, through history, through American history.
Oh my, what could this be? All it looks like is a bunch of untouched land preserving the natural environment.
TBrew, read the sign.
Oh, crikey! It's Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming.
Yes, Teddy Roosevelt founded the national parks as he loved nature. He wanted to
Keep some land set aside, untouched, unharmed by humans.
exactly.
It's so
Come on
pretty.
through. Oh, watch your step. Don't drown. Yes. Look at all the mountains, untouched by humans.
Look, it's Uncle Sam.
Yeah, he is symbolizing American imperialism when the United States annexed Hawaii and exercised significant control over Cuba, Guam, Puerto Rico, and the Philippines.
Wow, I'm not sure that's a good thing.
Regardless, it shows America's power was growing, and they were becoming more imperialistic.
Hello, and welcome to the Progressive Era Museum. Come on in.
Let's go, TBrew.
If you look here, you'll see temperance. Lots of women were not being treated well by their husbands because of alcoholism. So they advocated for a temperance movement. Also,
Over
you can
here,
see we have
the
monopolies.
monopolies. Hey, this is my show. Over
Sorry.
here, we have the monopolies. This is where, well, I just explained it to you, so you better remember. Let's move on.
Yes, but also it was about the people trying to bust the monopolies with crust busting and Teddy
Hey,
Roosevelt.
hey. Move on.
Now, if you look over here, we got the conservationists. These people were like Teddy Roosevelt. Again, they wanted to keep the land and not necessarily imperialize everything. Finally, we have settlement houses. These were created in order to help immigrants and get them back on their feet after they tried to adjust to the new economy of the U.S. I hope you enjoyed your tour.
Follow me, TBrew, as we continue throughout American history. Look to our right.
Oh no, the Lusitania, it's sinking.
Yeah, that's a result of unrestricted submarine warfare. The Germans are sinking boats with American citizens on it.
Is that
They're
one of the
using
U-boats that
U-boats.
did it?
Yeah, this one right here. This was actually the one that shot the Lusitania.
And what is that?
It's a representation of the Zimmerman telegram. The Zimmerman telegram was a telegram sent from Germany to Mexico to try to keep the U.S. out of the war in Europe. Let's continue on forward.
Oh, look, it's a trench where two armies would dig opposing lines of fortifications to keep their soldiers safe and to gain territory. The trenches in the western front of Europe were particularly bad, but the Germans had better trenches than the British because the Germans thought they would last longer.
Yes, TBrew. You have such good prior knowledge.
And look,
I think you're going to pass your AP exam.
it's a flapper.
Let's continue
She's
forward.
so outgoing for her era.
Yep. Yes, she is. You can see that's a flapper because of the long beads and the short skirt that she's wearing.
Yeah, I could see that based off the build right there.
Yeah. Over here, we have the signing of the 19th Amendment, which gave women, finally, Hebrew, 60 years later, we've made it, the right to vote. Here you are. All right, Hebrew, continue on with me as we go look at the Harlem Renaissance.
What was that?
The Harlem Renaissance, as depicted here, was an intellectual and cultural revival of African American music, dance, art, fashion, literature, theater, politics, and scholarship centered in Harlem, Manhattan, in New York City, spanning the 1920s and 30s.
So what are these guys doing?
They're playing jazz, a genre that came to be during this time period.
I love jazz.
Yeah, but unfortunately, the revival of the Harlem Renaissance brought up a revival of the KKK in the 1920s.
Can we just get rid of these racists already?
Unfortunately, they were very present at this time. Hundreds of unnecessary killings happened in the 1920s, and instead of doing something about it, much of the Southern government were Klans members themselves.
That's incredibly corrupt. This makes me sick.
It takes a long time before racism is uprooted from the legislature of our country. We like to think systematic racism is not present in today's world, but pretending that is the case would be lying. However, many African Americans were also culturally reforming during this time period.
Wow, look at all these people all down on their luck after the Great Depression.
Yes, TBrew, the Depression started in 1929 with the crash of Black Thursday. One main cause of the Depression was the run on banks. These people lived in small villages nicknamed Hoovervilles because Robert Hoover, the president at the beginning of the Depression, did little to nothing to prevent the Depression. Many people blamed him for their conditions and gave these towns these nicknames. This spread line shows the rationing of food that was occurring during the Depression. Let's continue on.
Open up! Open up! Come out here right now!
What? What did I do?
You've been arrested for your connection with communism. Come with me right now.
I'm not a commie, I promise.
Come here.
Here we can see the Palmer
That
raids.
darned Red Scare.
Yes, just as that communist said, it happened during the Red Scare. Continue on with me, TBrew, as we enter World War II. Look over there. It's Pearl Harbor, the base of the U.S. Pacific Fleet.
Wait, what are those planes flying above? They don't look American. In fact, they look Japanese. Excuse me, sir. What's today's date?
Oh, today's December 7th, 1941.
Oh
Why?
my god! It's the attack on Pearl Harbor! The event that brought the U.S. into the Second World War.
Yes. Now look over here on your other side. It's Normandy Beach, June 6th, 1944.
Oh, it's the D-Day landings, the return of Allied forces to France.
Yes, this was the turning point in the war. And finally, TBrew, this is Battleship Missouri, TBrew.
Oh, this is
Come on in.
where Douglas MacArthur received a Japanese surrender after the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Hey,
Yes,
TBrew.
TBrew, you're very smart.
How's it going?
Hi, bro.
I hope you learned something tonight in this dream.
Well, I guess that's all she wrote, TBrew.
Yeah, I guess so, mysterious dream history buffs.
It was nice knowing you.
Is it the Missouri ship that ended the war?
Yeah, exactly.
What happened?
Hebrew, you were freaking sleeping all class, bruh.
What?
What the heck?
Yo, where's Miss Diley?
Oh, we had a lockdown. My bad.
Oh, okay. Alright. Oh, class over, I guess.
See ya.